It's not uncommon right now to find somebody who has paid maybe $60,000 or $65,000 for a very high-end pickup truck. Well, even the average pickup truck now is going to be crossing over that $50,000 barrier.
New trucks have never looked this good on paper. More tech, more comfort, more capability, and a much bigger price tag to match. That is the part a lot of buyers feel later. Because once the truck is parked in your driveway and the monthly payment becomes real, the excitement starts fading fast. Suddenly, what felt like freedom starts feeling like a burden. The ownership costs stack up, the repair risk feels higher, and the truck that was supposed to be a dependable tool starts feeling like something you cannot afford to use too hard. That is when the whole deal starts looking different. So the real question is not how good these trucks look on the lot, it is whether they are truly worth the cost. The bad deal. A lot of new trucks are bad deals, and the reason is not complicated. They cost too much, they ask too much from the buyer, and they often give back less freedom than older trucks did. That sounds harsh, but look at how people act around them now. They do not talk like people who just bought a tool. They talk like people who just took on a giant responsibility. They start defending the price before anyone even criticizes it. They say things like, well, everything costs more now, or this is just what a good truck costs these days. That is usually the first sign the purchase already hurt. The old idea was simple. A truck was expensive, yes, but it made sense. You paid for toughness, usefulness, and a certain kind of honest value. Now, a lot of buyers are paying luxury money for something that still gets sold to them as practical. That is where the problem starts. The truck is presented like a workhorse, but priced like a reward. It is sold as a smart, long-term buy, but financed in a way that keeps people stretched for years. And once the number gets that big, the whole relationship changes. The truck stops feeling like a machine you use hard and starts feeling like something you protect. You start thinking about where you park it, how close other people get to it, what a shopping cart could do to it, what a small fender hit could cost, what happens if one screen goes dark, what happens if one sensor throws a warning. That is not just ownership, that is tension. What makes this worse is that a lot of buyers know all this. They feel it. They are not blind. They are trying to solve a real problem. They need something dependable, strong, and comfortable. But the market is not rewarding that need with a clean answer. It is handing them a more expensive mess and calling it progress. And once you look past the sticker, the weight of it gets heavier. Too expensive to use. A truck is supposed to take pressure off your life. It is supposed to help you move things, pull things, carry things, and deal with the rough parts without making you nervous every time you use it. But when the price gets too high, you stop using it freely. You start managing it like a fragile asset. That is the part people do not always say out loud. A lot of owners are babying trucks they bought for utility. They hesitate before loading rough material into the bed. They worry about scratching expensive paint. They think twice before taking it down a muddy road, squeezing it into a tight work area, or letting it sit in a sketchy parking lot. It still looks like a truck, but the ownership feeling starts acting like something else. Then the real cost begins spreading out. Insurance is higher. Tires can cost a small fortune, especially when the truck comes with giant wheels that look good on the lot, but make less sense in real life. Body damage is more expensive than people expect. Small hits can turn into big repair bills when bumpers, lights, cameras, and sensors all sit packed together. Even basic wear starts to feel heavier because the whole truck is heavier, more loaded, and more expensive to bring back to perfect. And then there is the monthly payment. That is where a lot of regret lives. Not on day one, not even in the first month. It shows up later when the truck becomes normal, but the payment still feels huge. That is when people start noticing how much of their working life is tied to a machine parked outside. It is also when they start asking a question they should have asked before. Am I really getting that much value back? For some buyers, yes. For a lot of them, no. They bought more truck than they truly use, more trim than they truly need, and more status than they ever asked for. The bad part is that the market makes that mistake feel normal. It makes overbuying feel responsible. It makes the big payment feel like proof that you bought something serious. But the pressure does not stop with money. The deeper problem sits behind the glass. The tech trap. This is where new trucks lose a lot of people. The screen looks impressive. The camera views look smart. The digital dash looks modern. The truck feels loaded, polished, and advanced. For a few minutes, standing still, it all feels like a win. Then, real ownership begins. A lot of truck tech is built to impress fast, not age well. That is the issue. It looks good in a review, it sells well in a showroom, it gives the salesperson something to point at. But after the novelty wears off, you are left with more software, more menus, more sensors, more alerts, and more little things that can become expensive when time catches up. Simple controls used to let you reach over and do what you needed without thinking. Now more of that gets pushed into a screen. That may not sound like a disaster, but it changes how the truck feels every day. The truck becomes less direct, less simple, less honest. You notice it when you are tired, when it is raining, when you are wearing gloves, when the sun hits the screen wrong, when the system lags, when some setting moves, when one piece of the interface decides to act strange. And the problem is not just annoyance. The problem is dependency. When more of the truck is tied to software and electronic systems, more of the truck starts feeling out of your hands. A cracked sensor cover, a damaged camera, a bad module, a dead screen, one update that goes wrong, one warning light that refuses to clear. That is when all that modern convenience stops feeling slick and starts feeling like a chain around the ownership experience. The worst part is that a lot of buyers do not even want all of it. They are not asking for a giant rolling tablet. They are not chasing more glowing icons. They just want a strong truck that starts, runs, hauls, tows, and holds up. But the market keeps stuffing more electronic layers into the product because it helps justify the price and push the truck further away from simple comparison. And once the truck becomes more electronic, it usually becomes less friendly to the person who actually owns it. Harder to maintain. A lot of people can live with a high price if the truck stays dependable and simple to keep on the road. That is the trade they are willing to make. But new trucks are getting worse at that exact trade. Not because every engine is terrible. Not because every new truck is junk. The problem is that the ownership experience keeps moving away from direct, simple maintenance and toward systems, procedures, calibration, software logic, and dealer-level access. That changes everything. A truck used to invite a certain kind of confidence. Maybe you did not fix every part of it yourself, but you felt like it belonged to you in a real way. You could open the hood, look around, understand the layout, swap basic parts, do routine work, and at least feel close to the machine. A lot of new trucks feel different. Tighter packaging, more layers, more sensors in the way, more things connected to other things. More moments where the answer is no longer replace the part, but instead replace the part and then program, relearn, reset, or calibrate. That is not just a repair issue, it is a power issue. The owner gets pushed further from the machine, while the machine gets pushed closer to the dealer, the software tool, or the approved procedure. And that may be fine once or twice, but over years, it wears on people. Especially the kind of buyers who grew up around products that were supposed to become more familiar over time, not more locked away. There is also a psychological cost to this. When maintenance feels less approachable, the truck starts feeling less like property and more like managed equipment. You still pay for it, you still insure it, you still carry all the risk, but your real control over it gets thinner. That is a hard thing for truck buyers to accept, because the whole emotional promise of a truck is capability, independence, and readiness. And when a product sold on independence starts making the owner feel more dependent, something has clearly gone wrong. The shape of that problem gets even clearer when you look at what these trucks have become on the outside. Too big for daily life. One of the strangest things about new trucks is how often they feel less natural in normal life than the older ones did. They are bigger in almost every direction. Taller hood, wider body, bulkier shape, bigger wheels, fatter doors, larger footprint. On paper, that can sound like more truck. In real life, it often means more hassle. Parking gets worse. Tight streets feel tighter. Garages feel smaller. Visibility can feel awkward in close spaces. The truck looks commanding from the outside, but from behind the wheel it can feel like you are carrying around more machine than daily life really asked for. That matters more than people think because most trucks do not spend every day towing heavy loads through open land. A lot of them spend their lives in traffic, in driveways, in parking lots, on school runs, on store runs, and doing ordinary life. That is where the size problem shows itself. A truck can be technically more capable and practically more annoying at the same time. That is the contradiction. The market sells huge dimensions like they are always an advantage, but for many owners they become something they work around every single day. And the truth is, bigger has become part of the sales language. The truck has to look dominant. It has to feel like a statement. It has to tower a little, stretch a little, own more space. That works in pictures. It works in ads. It works in the emotional part of the buyer's brain. But daily life is not an ad. Daily life is turning into a narrow spot, backing around a pole, loading groceries, fitting into a garage, seeing clearly in bad weather, and moving around town without feeling like the vehicle is asking too much from every small errand. Some people absolutely need a big truck. That is real. But a lot of people are paying for bulk they do not need, and then pretending it is a pure upgrade. It is not. Sometimes it is just more truck to drag through a life that did not call for it. And that bulk becomes even more expensive because the market knows exactly how to turn small wants into giant price jumps. The trim trap. Very few people walk in saying they want the most expensive truck on the lot. That is not how the sale usually happens. It happens in steps. Quiet ones. Reasonable ones. One feature at a time. Maybe you wanted a simple trim, but it did not come with the engine you wanted. Or the towing setup. Or the seat you wanted for long drives. Or the basic comfort feature that feels fair at this price. So you move up once. Then that trim makes another trim look only a little farther away. Then the salesperson starts talking monthly difference, not total difference. Then another package gets added because it helps resale, or because most people choose it, or because it is what they have on the lot right now. That is how a truck gets expensive in a way that feels almost accidental. Not one big leap, a chain of little approvals. And once that happens, the whole value argument starts to break apart. Because a lot of what gets added is not making the truck better at truck things. It is making the truck better at justifying a bigger number. Bigger wheels, nicer trim pieces, more screen, more stitched surfaces, more little comfort and appearance upgrades that feel good in a parked truck and matter less when the payment is still there years later. This is where people get trapped by might as well thinking. If you are already spending this much, you might as well get the better lights. You might as well get the nicer interior. You might as well get the package with the larger screen. You might as well get the trim that people really want. Before long, that phrase has quietly added thousands and thousands of dollars. The truck market is very good at making overbuying feel sensible. That is not random. High-margin trims are where the money lives. The product is being pushed upward because that is where the business wants it, which means the buyer has to work harder just to stay grounded. Still, people keep saying yes to these trucks, and to be fair, there is a reason for that. Why buyers still say yes? People do not buy new trucks because they are foolish. They buy them because trucks still mean something real. Strength, readiness, dependability, space, comfort. A sense that you can handle whatever comes next. That emotional pull is not fake. It is one of the strongest reasons this market keeps moving. A lot of buyers are not chasing vanity as much as people think. They are chasing relief. Relief from old repair stories. Relief from being stuck. Relief from buying something worn out and inheriting somebody else's neglect. Relief from that feeling that maybe you settled too low last time and had to live with the compromise every day. That is why the new truck pitch works so well. It speaks to fear and reassurance at the same time. It says, yes, this costs more, but look at what you are getting. Comfort, power, safety, capability, peace of mind. A lot of people hear that and think maybe this is finally the one vehicle that will do everything without compromise. The problem is that modern trucks often turn that hope into a very expensive misunderstanding. The buyer goes in looking for long-term confidence and walks out with long-term obligations. The truck may be quiet, smooth, quick, and packed with features, but the life around it gets heavier. And that weight shows up later, when the emotional rush is gone and the practical reality is all that remains. That is why the smartest truck buyers are usually not the most excited buyers. They are the calm ones, the ones who are willing to slow down and ask a harder question next. What do you really need? This is the question that cuts through the fog. Not what looks best, not what feels impressive for 10 minutes, not what trim people on the internet praise. What job are you really hiring the truck to do, and what will it cost you to live with that choice? Once you ask that honestly, a lot of the market starts looking silly. If you tow heavy all the time, that is one thing. If you haul real weight for work every week, that is one thing. If you need the space, the ride height, the bed, and the capability every day, then yes, a truck can still make solid sense. But that is not everybody. Not even close. A lot of people are paying every day for a 5% use case. They buy the biggest answer to cover a few moments each year and then spend the rest of the year feeding it, parking it, insuring it, and protecting it. That is not smart buying. That is expensive imagination. Smarter buyers also look past feature lists and focus on ownership burden. What is this thing going to cost me after the excitement wears off? What trim gives me what I need without dragging in a bunch of extra stuff I will pay for but never truly value? What engine, wheel setup, and equipment level will feel solid 5 years from now, not just exciting this afternoon? That is where clarity starts returning. The truck stops being a symbol and becomes a decision again. And once that happens, the better path usually looks less flashy, less inflated, and a lot more grounded. The smarter choice. This is the part a lot of buyers need to hear. The better answer is not always a brand new truck. Sometimes it is keeping the paid-off, one you already understand. Sometimes it is fixing what you have instead of replacing it with a much bigger bill. Sometimes it is buying used carefully after someone else already absorbed the sharpest part of the price drop. Sometimes it is choosing the lower trim on purpose and refusing to pay for a pile of things that do not improve the real job. That kind of choice does not feel glamorous, but it often feels much better later. You keep more breathing room, you stay out of the payment trap, you avoid turning a work vehicle into a financial centerpiece, you buy something you can actually use without flinching every time it gets dirty or works hard. There is also a harder truth here. Some people do not need a truck nearly as much as they think. They need space once in a while. They need to haul occasionally. They need towing sometimes. That is not the same as needing to own a giant, expensive truck full-time. In some cases, a different kind of vehicle plus a trailer, or renting truck capability when it is truly needed, makes more sense than financing all that extra machine every month. The truck market counts on people not wanting to ask that question, because once you ask it honestly, a lot of sales logic collapses. You stop chasing image, you stop rewarding overkill, you stop mistaking bigger for smarter. And the broader point is not really about one truck or one brand. It is about what kind of buyer you want to be in a market that keeps testing your discipline. Value or regret? New trucks are one of the clearest examples of a wider problem in modern buying. Useful products keep getting more expensive, more complicated, more software-heavy, and more dressed up, while the ordinary buyer gets asked to carry more risk, more debt, and less direct control. That is why this conversation hits people so hard. It is not just about horsepower, tow ratings, or shiny paint. It is about whether the product still respects the buyer, whether it still gives honest value, whether it still feels like something built to serve your life instead of quietly taking over it. A truck should make you feel more capable, not more trapped, more relaxed, not more stretched, more independent, not more tied to payments, procedures, and systems you do not control. When a product sold on freedom starts creating stress, caution, and second thoughts, something has gone badly wrong. And that is why more people are starting to pull back. They are looking harder, waiting longer, keeping older vehicles alive, buying less truck, asking tougher questions. That shift is not nostalgia. It is not fear of change. It is buyers slowly realizing that high price and high complexity do not always mean high value. That is the part the market does not want said too clearly. But once you see it, the whole truck conversation changes. If you are shopping for a new truck right now, the goal is not to talk yourself out of one at all costs. The goal is to stop letting the market do your thinking for you. Some people truly need one, and for the right job, a truck can still make sense. But the burden of proof is much higher now. At these prices, with this much tech, this much complexity, and this much long-term cost, the truck has to earn its place in your life. Not in the ad, not on the lot, in your real life. If it does, fine. If it does not, walking away may be the smartest move you make. If you think practical buying still matters, and if you are tired of hype being sold as value, subscribe and stay with us.